Hi, my name is Gabby, and I'm going to be discussing some of the misinformations that are going around in the internet regarding me and the Kada Scott situation. So, if you are unaware, Kada Scott is a girl that went missing in Philadelphia on October 4th. So, I did know Keon. He was my friend. I met him about 4 or 5 years ago.
A woman named Gabby just came forward with information that's turning the entire Kada Scott case upside down. People are accusing her of telling Keon King where Kaydah lived. She made a video try to explain herself, but now the internet is asking one question. Is she telling the truth, or is she the accomplice police have been searching for? Before we dive into this bombshell, if you're not subscribed to Mistora Crimes, you need to hit that subscribe button right now. Click the bell icon, smash that like button, drop a comment telling me what you think about this, and share this video because what we're about to discuss changes everything. Let's get into it. So for those of you just catching up, Kada Scott was a 23-year-old from Philadelphia who disappeared on October 4th after leaving her overnight shift early. Her remains were found 2 weeks later behind a vacant school. She died from a gunshot wound to the head. Keon King, a 21-year-old with a history of violence against women, was arrested and charged with a murder along with a long list of other charges, including kidnapping, robbery, tamper with evidence, and abuse of a corpse. He's being held without bail. But from the very beginning, investigators made it clear that King didn't act alone. Surveillance footage showed two people moving what appeared to be a body. Police Commissioner Kevin Bethel publicly stated, "We continue to pursue anyone who helped, who concealed, who participated in this act." They've been hunting for accomplices since day one. And now, a woman named Gabby has become the center of a massive controversy that has the entire true crime community talking. Here's what we know about Gabby. She knew both Kada Scott and Keon King. She was connected to both of them somehow. And according to allegations that have been circulating on social media, specifically on Facebook and TikTok, Gabby didn't tell police something crucial. The allegation is this. Gabby told Keon King where Kada Scott lived, and she didn't immediately disclose this information to investigators. Let that sink in for a second. If this allegation is true, it means that Gabby potentially gave a violent predator the exact location of his victim. It means she had information that could have been critical to the investigation, and she didn't come forward with it right away. It means she might be one of the people who helped make this murder possible. Now, Gabby has made videos responding to these accusations. She's gone on TikTok and other social media platforms trying to explain her side of the story, trying to defend herself against what people are saying. We're going to play that video for you because you need to hear what she said directly. You need to see her explanation and decide for yourself whether you believe her or not. But before we get to that, let me give you some context about why this matters so much. Remember those text messages between Kaydah and Keon King? The one where Kaydah texted, "Kidnap me again" on the morning of October 4th? Investigators have been trying to figure out how King and Scott knew each other, how they met, what their connection was. And now with Gabby in the picture, we might be getting closer to understanding that connection.
Kada Scott is a girl that went missing in Philadelphia on October 4th. So I did know Keon. He was my friend. I met him about 4 or 5 years ago, and he was also the local pharmacist. Now, me and my best friend, we were also mutual friends with Keon. He was our pharmacist. So one day Keon calls me, and keep in mind, I am in school, I am in Maryland, and he will usually just call me, just to check up and talk. So he calls me, and he asks me if I know Kaydah. And I'm like, yeah, I know Kaydah. And he's like, oh yeah, I noticed that she lives really close to you. I'm like, yeah, she lived right in the back of me. And I'm not thinking nothing of it because he usually calls me and, we just be chatting. He'll call me about the people that be around because he is the pharmacist. I live in the neighborhood and he be in my neighborhood. So we hang up the phone and that was that. We were only on the phone for 29 seconds. So you can see that this is the day that he called me and this was before Kaydah went missing. And we were only on the phone for 29 seconds. Also, I know that his name says Elliot in my phone. That's just what we call him. So a couple of days after that, my best friend calls me and, we're just talking about life. And I mentioned to her how Keon brought up Kaydah to me. I'm not thinking nothing of it. I'm like, oh yeah, he was probably trying to flirt with her. He's probably trying to get at her. Mind you, me and my best friend, we know Kaydah because we grew up with her little sister. Now, we didn't know Kaydah personally because, again, we grew up with her little sister. We were around 12, 11 years old. Kaydah, she was much older than us, so we didn't really talk to her. So my best friend was like, oh yeah, like he probably thought she was cute, and that was that. So right here is the day that I called my best friend and told her that, Keon was trying to get at Kaydah. This is before she went missing. So a couple days, maybe a week after that, it is reported on October 4th that Kaydah is missing. So keep in mind, I am in Maryland, so I'm not really into all the Philadelphia news that be going on. So I'm not knowing that Kaydah is missing until my best friend sends me a text and says that Kaydah is missing. So this is the day that my best friend tells me that Kaydah is missing on October 9th. So I'm in my friend's dorm and I call Keon, and it's a lot of music and a lot going on in the background. So I go somewhere that's quiet and I tell him, Keon, Kaydah is missing. Like, that girl, she's missing. So he was like, what? And then after that, the phone just hung up. So here you can see that I called Keon and we were on the phone for 2 minutes. So you have to keep in mind, this was my friend, okay? I did not think that he could be capable of anything like this. In my head, I'm just thinking, there's no way in the world he could have did something like this. There's no way in the world. So then a couple of days after that, my mom sends me a screenshot of Keon turning himself in for the kidnapping of Kaydah. So this is my mom sending me the article, and she was distraught to say the least. And I know she said that he was a random person, but she says this about all my friends. So me and my best friend, we get on the phone and we're talking about the situation. We're just saying how this is just crazy. This is the call of me and her talking about it. Now, this is all happening around the time that I'm taking my midterms. So I'm really just trying to keep my head on the books. And I wasn't really trying to let this stress me out. So I kind of just let it go. He turned himself in. It's not really much to say or do anymore. So a couple days after that, me and my best friend get on the phone and we're basically just, talking about the Kaydah situation. And she says that she thinks that I should call the cops. So she was basically saying that she thinks that I should call the cops and tell them that Keon was, asking about Kaydah. Now, at the time in my head, I'm thinking that there was no reason to call the cops. He already turned himself in. And I felt like it would be kind of a waste of time to tell them that the guy that they already have in custody, called me and was asking about the girl. And me personally, I'm not a cop caller. Like, I don't call the cops. That's just the way that I grew up. That's what I was around. They will always tell me, you don't call the cops. So I just felt like, the information that I had and the fact that, I'm just not really a cop caller, it wouldn't make sense for me to call the cops. So then my best friend tells me, well, if you won't call the cops and tell them, then I will. And then she basically tells me that she doesn't want to be friends with me anymore because I won't call the cops. And I told her, that's completely fine. I just don't want any involvement. So then we hung up the phone, and then I believe she called me again with the police on the other line. So you can see, I told her, I'm sorry, I'm not talking to the cops. And yeah. Now, I can't see how this could be cruel, and I do take accountability for that. So then a couple of days later after that, I get sent a link on Instagram. And the link was basically my best friend going live, just talking about the situation, saying how I was weird for not going to the cops. And people in the comments were just coming up with their own narratives about the story. And it just got way out of hand and it just spiraled. So you can see somebody sent me the link of the live, and still to this day, I have not watched the full entire live. Then people just started asking, who is Gabby? What's the connection? And, she told people that I was in Maryland for school, and it was just a whole entire thing. So, of course, I was angry and I was confused because what is going on? So I text her, I tell her that, that was weird. And yeah. Then I started seeing posts of people saying that they think that I set Kaydah up and that why wouldn't I go to the cops and that I was just suspicious and all of this stuff. And this was never the case. So I do end up contacting the authorities after I seen people just making up crazy stuff about me and the situation. They cut me off. They tell me that they already know what's going on, that they have a close eye on the social media. And they also tell me that my friend did come forth with the information, and they told her that there was nothing that they can do, that the information that she brought them was useless information because they already had Keon in custody, and it was just nothing for them to do with this information. They told me to contact them only if I had anything that could lead to finding Kaydah, because that is their main priority. Now, I do believe that the person in the live was just kind of taking what I told her and running with it and just spicing it up to make it seem like something that it wasn't, for, I don't know, maybe views. People were saying that, she was walking around and showing what stores Kaydah would go to, where she would walk her dog, and just stuff like that. I also had one of our mutual friends come to me, and he told me that she told him that we knew Kaydah our whole lives and we grew up with her, which wasn't the case because we grew up with her little sister. Now, I do think that the person in the live was taking what I told them and kind of just running with it and spicing it up to make it seem like it was way bigger than what it was. And I basically think this because I had a mutual friend that came to me and said that she came to them and told them that we knew Kaydah our whole life and that we grew up with Kaydah, when that wasn't the case. We grew up with her little sister. My prayers go out to Kaydah and her family, and I hope that she can make a safe return home.
Prosecutors have said that Kada Scott and Keon King briefly knew each other, but they haven't elaborated on exactly how. They've confirmed there was cell phone communication between them. What if Gabby was a link? What if she was the person who introduced them or gave King access to Kaydah in some way? That's what people are wondering right now. That's why the true crime community is putting so much focus on her. The allegations against Gabby first surfaced on Facebook from a page called Missing, Lost, and Trafficked. They posted a video with a caption, "Gabby didn't tell the police she told Keon King where Kada Scott lived." That's a direct accusation. That's not speculation. That's saying she gave him the address and didn't tell police about it. And once that information got out, people started asking questions. A lot of questions. True crime YouTubers and TikTokers have been covering this nonstop. One video is titled, "Keon King's friend Gabby looks sus as hell, but is she telling the truth?" That title alone tells you where public opinion is right now. People are suspicious. People think she's hiding something. And honestly, can you blame them? If she really did give King Kaydah's address, that's not just suspicious. That's potentially criminal. Now Gabby has tried to defend herself. She's made videos explaining her side of the story. And look, we need to be fair here. We need to hear what she has to say before we jump to conclusions. So let's talk about what she's claimed and why people aren't buying it. From what we've been able to piece together from various sources, Gabby is saying that she knew both Kaydah and Keon, but she's denying that she intentionally helped him hurt Kaydah. She's trying to explain away her connection to both of them. She's trying to make it seem like whatever information she may have shared was innocent, that she didn't know what King was planning to do. But here's the problem with that explanation. Keon King already had a documented history of violence against women. There was a previous kidnapping case. There were protection orders against him. This wasn't some guy with a clean record. This was someone who had already shown the world exactly who he was. So if Gabby knew King well enough to be communicating with him, if she knew him well enough to potentially give him information about where Kaydah lived, did she also know about his violent past? Did she know about the other women who accused him? And if she did know, why would she give him any information about another woman's location? These are the questions people are asking, and honestly, they're fair questions. Kada Scott's aunt has also spoken out on TikTok about the case, and while we don't have the exact details of what she said, you can imagine the family's anger if they believe someone gave their daughter's address to her killer. Think about that from a parent's perspective. Your daughter is murdered, and then you find out that someone potentially told the killer where to find her. How do you process that? How do you forgive that? Now let's talk about what this means for the investigation, because this is where things get really serious. Remember, police have been actively looking for accomplices. They've got surveillance footage showing two people moving a body. They've got evidence that King didn't do this alone. And if Gabby did give King information about where Kaydah lived, even if she claimed she didn't know what he was planning, that could still make her legally liable. In criminal law, There's something called accessory before the fact. That's when someone assists in the commission of a crime before it happens, even if they don't directly participate in the crime itself. If prosecutors can prove that Gabby knowingly gave King information to help him locate and ultimately murder Kaydah, she could be charged as an accomplice, and that carries serious prison time. But here's where it gets complicated. What if Gabby is telling the truth? What if she really didn't know what King was planning? What if she mentioned where Kaydah lived in casual conversation, not realizing he would use that information to hunt her down? Does that make her guilty, or does that make her an unwitting participant in something horrible? These are questions that investigators are probably asking right now. These are questions that will determine whether Gabby ends up in a courtroom facing charges, or whether she's just someone who got caught up in a nightmare through no fault of her own. But here's what I keep coming back to. If she really was innocent in all this, if she really had no idea what King was capable of or what he was planning, why didn't she come forward immediately? Why did it take allegations and public pressure for her to start explaining herself? When Kaydah first went missing on October 4th, the family was desperate for information. They were putting out posts on social media, begging for anyone who knew anything come forward. The police were conducting searches. The community was rallying to find her. And if Gabby knew that she had given King information about Kaydah's location, wouldn't that have been the time to say something? Wouldn't that have been the moment to tell investigators, "Hey, I talked to this guy about where she lives, and he has a violent history"? But according to the allegations, she didn't do that. She stayed quiet. And by the time Kaydah's remains were found 2 weeks later, it was too late. Kaydah was already gone. And now Gabby is having to answer for why she didn't speak up sooner. Let me also point out something else that's been bothering people about this situation: the timing. Kaydah disappeared on October 4th. In the days leading up to that, Kaydah told her mother that she was being harassed by unknown individuals via phone. Unknown individuals. Multiple people. Was Gabby one of those people harassing her? Was she part of a larger scheme to target Kaydah? Or is the connection more innocent than that? And then there's that text message again. "Kidnap me again." That suggests King had done something to Kaydah before October 4th. Something serious enough that she referenced it as kidnapping. Did Gabby know about that previous incident? If she was friends with King, did he tell her what he had done? And if he did tell her, why would she then give him more information about Kaydah's whereabouts? The true crime community is divided on this. Some people think Gabby is genuinely just someone who got caught up in something terrible and is now being unfairly blamed. They think she's being scapegoated because people want answers, and they want someone to be held accountable beyond just King. Other people think she's absolutely guilty of helping King, whether intentionally or through reckless disregard for Kaydah's safety. They think her explanations don't add up, and that she's trying to cover her tracks now that the spotlight is on her. And honestly, I don't know what to believe yet. I want to see all the evidence. I want to hear exactly what she told police, and when she told them. I want to know the full nature of her relationships with both Kaydah and King. Because right now, we're operating on allegations and social media videos, and that's not enough to convict someone in the court of public opinion, let alone in an actual courtroom. But what I do know is this. If Gabby did give King information that helped him find Kaydah, and if she didn't immediately come forward with that information when Kaydah went missing, then she bears some responsibility for what happened. Maybe not legal responsibility, depending on what she knew and when she knew it, but certainly more responsibility, because silence in these situations isn't neutral. Silence can be deadly. This brings me to some bigger questions that I think everyone watching this needs to consider. How well do you really know the people in your life? If someone you knew asked you for information about another person's whereabouts, would you give it to them without questioning why they wanted to know? Would you think twice about sharing someone's address or their schedule or where they work? Or would you just assume it was innocent and hand over that information? Because here's the thing. We live in a world where information is currency, where knowing where someone lives or works or hangs out can be the difference between safety and danger. And we need to be more careful about what we share and with whom, especially when we're talking about sharing information about women with men who have documented histories of violence. And that leads me to another question. If you knew someone had a violent past, if you knew they'd been accused of kidnapping or assault or abuse, Would you still maintain a friendship with them? Would you still trust them? Would you still give them access to other people in your life? Because that's what we're potentially talking about with Gabby. She allegedly knew King well enough to communicate with him, possibly well enough to know about his past, and she still potentially gave him information about another woman. What does that say about judgment? What does that say about complicity? What does that say about the choices we make and the people we choose to protect or enable? These are uncomfortable questions, but they're necessary ones, because Kada Scott is dead. And if someone helped make that possible, whether intentionally or through negligence, they need to answer for it. Let me ask you this. If you were in Gabby's position right now, if you realized that information you share might have led to someone's death, how would you live with yourself? How would you face that person's family? How would you explain that you didn't mean for it to happen, that you didn't know, that you're sorry? Would sorry be enough? Would any explanation be enough? And here's maybe the most important question of all. How many other people out there right now are sitting on information that could help solve crimes, that could protect potential victims, that could hold dangerous people accountable, but they're staying silent because they're scared or because they think it's not their business or because they don't want to get involved? How many Gabbys are out there who know something but aren't saying anything? This case shows us that staying silent has consequences. Real consequences. Life and death consequences. And I think all of us need to examine our own lives and ask ourselves if we're being silent about something we shouldn't be. If we know something that could help someone, that could save someone, are we speaking up? Or are we looking the other way? So here's what I need from you right now. If this video made you think, if it made you angry, if it made you question things, then engage with it, like this video, so the algorithm pushes it to more people. Comment below and tell me what you think about Gabby. Do you believe her explanation? Do you think she should be charged? What would you do if you were in her position? Share this video everywhere because people need to see this. They need to understand that staying silent isn't harmless. Subscribe to Mistora Crimes and hit that bell icon because we're going to keep following this case until we have all the answers, until everyone involved is held accountable, until justice is fully served. And if you know something about this case, if you have information about Gabby or King or anyone else who was involved, contact the Philadelphia Police Department. Don't wait. Don't assume someone else will do it. Don't think it's not important. Every piece of information matters. Every detail could be the thing that closes this case and brings peace to Kaydah's family. Kada Scott deserved better. She deserved to be at her best friend's wedding wearing that bridesmaid dress. She deserved to build her career and help people and live her life. And if someone helped take that away from her, whether it was King pulling the trigger or Gabby giving him the address or anyone else who participated in any way, they all need to face justice. All of them. Rest in peace, Kaydah. Your story isn't over yet. We're still fighting for you. We're still demanding answers. And we won't stop until everyone knows your name and everyone involved pays a price for what they took from this world. Justice for Kada Scott, always and forever.